But Paul, what's your number one?
It's The Lion King. It's one of the greatest movies of all time, regardless of genre, regardless of animation or not. I mean, it's just massive. It's huge hit. Beautiful. I mean, you can't really say much more than that. It's just great.
Yeah. Jen?
Yeah, it's also my number one. This was a big deal for me at the time, but my mother let me skip swim team practice. And she took me and my brother and my sister to the movies to watch this in theaters on opening day. And it is a magnificent film. Full stop. It's amazing. My kids love it. It's great.
You guys made me think of something real quick before I tell you mine. But speaking of Big Hero 6, by the way, my dog named Tadashi in part because of Big Hero 6. So it's a connection there. But Aladdin is my number one. And Aladdin is my number one because much like The Lion King, I think it fires on all cylinders all the time. The animation is spectacular. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It was one of the first times that they'd incorporated any 3D computer technology. And they did that with water and lava and stuff like that, which nobody had ever done before. So there's like 3D animation sort of built into some aspects of this movie that was kind of groundbreaking. But also, and I think maybe more than anything, I think the music is basically flawless in that movie, and Robin Williams. And for me personally, it's the movie that I watch the most. I watch that movie, I don't know, 50 times, maybe more than 50 times at this point in my life. I've watched that movie so many times. And there's just so many little intricate details, and it's just such a beautifully done film. And for me, it was just my favorite growing up. So, yeah.
Hard to argue. What I found surprising, I mean, my top five is obviously the best top five, but what I found interesting is that I was looking through the list of movies on Disney on Wikipedia,
Mm-hmm.
and Encanto almost made it. Almost made it. I think if this was a top 10, it definitely would have made it. I'm just surprised
it would make it in my top 10.
It surprised me looking at the list of, because you think of Disney and you got the Snow White, you got Sleeping Beauty, you got Pinocchio, which are all great, but like I find myself thinking more about Encanto than I thought that I originally was expecting. So high praise to Encanto.
I think so. I think you're right. I would agree with that. I think one of the problems with doing lists like this, you think about these lists in a couple different ways. One of the ways would be from this sort of film critics sort of perspective, or this sort of film history perspective, in which case then you got to put something like Snow White on the board, because, Snow White, the first movie of its kind, Walt Disney put everything he had into it. It's just this beautiful entrepreneurial story, but all of that is like a meta, and obviously the animation is spectacular and stunning, and it's cell animation, first time that anybody's ever done that.
1937 is when they released that thing.
Yeah, it's insane. There. But the thing is, I don't want to revisit that movie very much, right? Like, I don't go back and rewatch that movie over and over. I probably not going to. Like, it's not something that I care to put on when I'm feeling in a particular mood. Aladdin is. I've watched Aladdin within the last year. I mean, I watched it obviously before the Will Smith version came out, but like I've watched it, multiple times as an adult. I've watched that movie, a ton. I've watched all the movies on this list multiple times. Encanto would probably make it in the top 10. But I think one of the things that looking at the wiki list sort of really reveals for me, and just reinforces, is that Disney had this period in the 90s, in the mid to late 90s, that peaked and then it just dropped off really hard. And there are a lot of fairly well-known reasons for that. Obviously, their leadership changed, the amount of money and resources they were putting into 2D animation changed, and the idea that everything could be done as computer animation shifted. It's really only like Pixar just completely dominated everything at that point. And it's only because Disney acquired Pixar that I think going from almost anything around, let's say 2000 to 2015 or so, like there's anything in the Disney, like in Disney's overall portfolio, it's all Pixar at that point. And I don't know, I find that to be a little bit interesting. Also, you'll notice that Disney became the distributor, the American distributor for Studio Ghibli movies, which, if we were doing a broader list, tons of Miyazaki's movies would have made it on the list as well. But all this stuff is because Disney was able to acquire some of these, other studios. And it really hasn't been Walt Disney Animation Studios that's really been driving a lot of the best stuff, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this, and this might be because companies have a life cycle, and Disney is not sure where they're at right now. I think they have so many different businesses and things like that they're and they've done it intentionally. That they'll be fine. But what as far as the movies go, obviously Disney Studio Animation is just they can really hit the highs that they've hit previously. And Kanto is great. Like, I enjoyed it. Like we talked about, we just spent a long time talking about it. But what I appreciate about Disney is that even though they have acquired Pixar, even though they have acquired the Ghibli Studios, the distribution rights, same with Marvel. Yeah, this is lesser extent of Marvel, but I think Marvel's doing it to themselves. But it seems that they are pretty hands off about what these studios do. Yeah. Obviously, they're going to have some stay, but you look at a Pixar movie; it's a Pixar movie, and it really hasn't changed. What's changed is that they just have more resources, and now there's a freaking Ratatouille ride at Disney World. So, I mean, that's great. I mean, you're just giving good creators more money. Yeah. So if that's what Disney's plan is, I'm all for it. But what my biggest concern is what's happening with Marvel. But I don't even know if that's just Disney or if that's just comic books in general.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think it's all of the above probably, but